I just want to see my boy again. I just want to see my boy again.
It has been quite a while since I've last played a fan game that really got me scared or creeped out. Whether I like it or not, it really does seem like things have gotten a little stale recently. Although a little change in trend, I think, has changed my mind on that. Whether you're here for the games, the community, or something else, I believe we've all gotten here to this franchise for a similar reason. Due to the creepy as fuck storytelling, which really seems like it's stick together by tuck tape. But I don't think it's fair to say that's the only reason we've gotten here, as I believe that the main reason is actually due to the perfect mix of horror, visual, and sound effects that's used in these games. With video after video out there really showing just how perfectly crafted FNAF 1 really was, and how it really did seem like it was Scott's magnum opus. And yet not a single fan game ever came to this extent. I've always longed for that same special feeling I had when playing the original Five Nights. While it has been surpassed in many ways, I don't think any game has yet to be that perfect mixture that the original was. And if many have exceeded it, it was only in some aspects. But I think today that changes with a game that I think exceeds it in just about every way possible. Starting off, when getting into the game, you'll be shown a disclaimer screen warning you of the content which is to come, which for this video I believe you should also take into consideration. Jumping straight into the menu, we're given off this immensely off-putting screen, with options to start a new game, continue and change some settings, or quit. While random flashing images aren't really anything new to fan games, I think it's a little fair to say that this one takes it to a new extreme. From the creepy static, flashing text to the creepy background music, I think it'd be fair to say that this menu really does a great job what it's supposed to make you feel scared. Starting a new game, we're given some little exposition for the story of the game. A local news agency reports on one of their reporters, Sam Rodriguez, having gone to the restaurant, Freddy Bear's Eatery and Fun, and having gone missing. Now you may be confused on what this means, but the game simply leaves off on this cliffhanger quickly as we're thrown into night one. An important feature to note before delving into the puppets, because yes, they're puppets instead of animatronics, but I'm not going to call them that, I'm just going to call them animatronics instead. And the phone call is the camera system. Unlike other FNAF fan games, the player can't choose which camera they can view. Instead, the camera cycles through each camera with a timer here showing how much time you have left. Since the player cannot choose which camera they can view, the player is left with only two options. The player can use the alarm system, which is used against some animatronics, or press this button to speed up the cycle of the cameras. Additionally, the monitor is connected to the shitty router, so if you check the camera too much or play the alarm too much, the feed will worsen and more as you use the features. The solution to this, of course, is having to reset your router so that you can get a fresh feed again. Now that you've understood this, you'd think that you'd be ready to go after the animatronics, right? Well, not yet. You have this little door right here to the ticket booth, which you also have to close in case some animatronics get there, which will happen very often. Having the simple information noted down, you should be all set now to go into the game. And in usual FNAF game style, as you would expect, the phone guy gives us a call. In it he reveals some details. We're apparently not qualified for the job, and have only been hired because we can't sleep well at night. Besides that though, he goes on to explain how the monitors work, and stuff which I've already explained. So let's face the obvious. Holy shit, this game is weird. If you haven't noticed already, the game definitely does seem to pull much of its inspiration from the ransomware trend a while ago that utilized this exact style of look. And then itself is inspired by the very popular form of horror that has sparked up in the last 5 years in the form of analog horror. And well, we could see how much it inspires this game too. The 4:3 video ratio, the constant static, the weird sound effects, it really does check every mark. And it's something that I think it adds to the creepiness value. Analog style horror is nothing new, but we've never really seen something like this done in a FNAF fan game before, I believe. And if we have, it must have been pretty shit, because I haven't heard about it. Finally getting into the night itself, the first animatronic we're met with is this handsome son of a gun, Bonnie, who at least according to the wiki is apparently the hardest animatronic to deal with. On his way to the ticket booth window, he has a chance to either go through an entrance here in the playroom or through here in the hallway. In both cases, you have to use your alarm to distract them and lead them forward without getting into an entrance. Although according to the wiki, using it too many times will cause him to eventually just ignore the alarm cycle. I didn't see this, but the wiki says it, so it must be true. He'll appear in the ticket booth window where you'll have to quickly close it to make sure he doesn't get in, both protecting yourself and resetting his cycle. Despite it sounding simple, it actually can be a little difficult. I struggle quite a bit for this first night, which is out of character because I'll usually just glide right through these first few nights, but no, this game had a surprising challenge from the get-go, which I welcomed with open arms. Now after you finished in the first night, you'll be met with another cutscene. I guess is the only way you can describe these scenes. In this cutscene, we read about the conversation between two people, someone whose text is blue, and someone named Newson, who tells the man that the animatronics need to be cleaned because they stink. While they both discuss this, Newson ends up noticing a second smell. He asks where the smell is coming from, and then hears a knocking sound, which sounds hollow. However, only Newson hears it, and so he comes from the conclusion that there's something down there, and that there's a basement area. He questions the blue text man on that, but he says it is only for storage, and nothing more. The cutscene then cuts off as Newson asks to see what is down there, with the man reluctantly agreeing. I wish there was something a little more that we could talk about this, but it seems that there quite isn't. We will touch more about what each cutscene signifies in the next night, but at least for now, let's dive into more gameplay. The phone guy starts off things by completely dropping the bomb that yeah, the animatronics are moving around. He still tries to comfort you by saying that they're really only trying to hug you and nothing more than just gentle giants, but that's really all there is to this phone call. So let's move on to the two new animatronics, Chica and her cupcake. Chica can only reach you through the ticket booth window. Unlike Bonnie, however, Chica does not have a set path for the cameras. Instead, she would just kind of jump around the cameras randomly. If she's observed at either the stage camera or the hallway camera, you can see her running directly towards the office, where she'll enter a period where she won't kill you at the booth, staying hidden from the front view. When she is seen, however, from the office, simply put, close the fucking window as fast as possible. Otherwise, she will kill you. She'll stay there for a few seconds, and then, finally, she will leave. Also, additionally, if you flash the light on her, she will immediately lunge at you and kill you the moment it turns back off. So, try to avoid that. Her cupcake named Cream will only be in the management office. On this camera, you'll witness 3 stages of the cupcake. First peeking through the vent, finally leaving the vent. The first 2 stages can be tracked by the vent clagging sounds. However, her third phase is completely silent. As Cream exits the vent, claws will protrude from her mouth. To stop this, use the alarm and she'll retreat back through the vent. Now, as I've mentioned, the difficulty from the get-go, at least for this game, was pretty high. This didn't help. The multitasking aspect of the game already seemed to get more complex, which is fun. It keeps you distracted enough, unlike other FNAF games, but boy was I not excited for what was to come. Entry 175. July 7th, 1978. The man with blue text is the speaker again, and he begins to tell us that things aren't looking great for Fredbear's right now. The night before this recording, Wolfgang attempted to break out of the restaurant, but he didn't go far, collapsing in agony before he was able to leave. The man with blue text described opening Wolfgang up and finding his remains, but only to realize that they all had turned into nothing but piles of ash. He cleans up what is left, although for the bones he prefers to save it up so that he could show the others, so they understand their place now. And none of them can leave. Holy shit. While the game already had a very creepy vibe, this just kind of hits you like a truck. This is insanely dark for a FNAF fan game. The gruesome description that I saw here really kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting something of this kind. I was just kind of expecting the usual, stuff was found here, stuff was found there, but not a full description. I'm not complaining, I find it very interesting, but it definitely is a different trend from what you see from most fan games. The phone guy starts off immediately not sugarcoating things. He has never seen someone make it this far into the week. That usually people would have moved on from now, or indirectly stating that something else would have happened to them. After you're done with him, you'll see the new challenge of the night, Barry. Barry's mechanics is that she'll be located on the stage in the playroom. She must be kept at bay, keeping a music player playing. If the music stops, Barry will move in stages towards the vent duct in the playroom. If Barry advances to the next stage, she will never return back to the previous one. If the music is stopped for too long, Barry will enter the vent duct, leading to your death. So simply put, she's the puppet of this game. This should really be easy enough for you to understand. But anyway, the conversation begins right off with a new character. Mrs. Rodriguez will be assured that no one at Freddy Bear's is the cause of your son's disappearance. We can only assume here that Mrs. Rodriguez is the mother of Sam Rodriguez, the journalist who we know went missing after coming to the restaurant. A man with green text tells Mrs. Doyle that her client's son did not disappear from Mr. Raglan's establishment, although quickly that's disproven, since Sam was actually seen last time around in Freddy Bear's. The yellow text then interrupts everyone, stating that he knows what Mr. Raglan did, telling everyone that Raglan's establishment has a reputation of disappearing staff. The green text interrupts him, although, once again, the yellow text interrupts him back, telling him that she knows you know where my boy is. The red text tells her to calm her down, likely her lawyer or husband. The green text, likely the lawyer of Mr. Raglan, agrees, but that's cut short as Mrs. Rodriguez then hits the table screaming, "Your client kidnapped my boy." The red text calls her Janice. She screams again, "I want to see my boy again. I want to see my boy again." okay. That is a lot to unpack here. While we already knew that the journalist from the night 1 had disappeared, I didn't think we would get to see a first-hand impression of the mother crying out for that missing person. But this is dark. It is incredibly dark. This is a level of in-depth that we don't see often, and it really throws you off. Am I glad they did it? Certainly, but fucking hell. Jumping into the night, the phone guy is weirded out and surprised that you are still here, but quickly moves on over that fact to explain how the new animatronics works. He jokes around about paying the animatronics to keep you on your toes, before once again leaving. Our new animatronic tonight is Slithers. He will appear in one of the active cameras except camera 07. The player needs to keep a camera on him or not switch the camera if he's on to a different camera. You can also lower the monitor to stall the camera, with then Slithers will leave after a few seconds. But if you fail to do so, they will end up getting an unavoidable jump scare. It's a pretty weird animatronic to explain, and even then I didn't get a full grasp of being honest, and I kinda needed to visit the wiki to get some information, but nevertheless. Entry 806. The blue text man appears again, starting everything off telling us that he is getting too far ahead, and thought that they would have gotten him by now, and that the system used to work so well. He wonders if this is a sign. He also notes that while checking the cameras, Freddy Bear came from his playroom with a different appearance, acting more rabid, noting that it ended the same way for all those poor souls. It's clear to me now, this is all coming to an end.
You know, I never really know what happens now. I've never seen anyone make it this far, and... Why? Why didn't you leave? Was it the money? Or something else? The only way this ends is for you to die. Mr. Rodriguez, this is the last time we will be speaking to one another. May God have mercy on the both of us.
The final night of the game starts off immediately by dropping the bombshell that we were Mr. Rodriguez the entire time. You were the reporter who through all these nights was deemed dead, and because of it, the establishment which you are in right now. Despite the looming dark scenario being very apparent, the music that plays through the night seems inspiring, that against all the odds you may be able to alter your fate, survive the last night of the week. And as you beat all the challenges one by one, and as you stall Freddy Bear by looking at the camera again and again, the clock strikes 6 a.m. You think that you've avoided death as the music stops, but as you turn on the camera you see Freddy Bear dashing down to the office. You close the window booth to avoid him coming in, but death was inevitable. It's then that you realize that throughout the whole week, it wasn't even a matter of surviving, and instead, they were all just simply playing with their food, with their patience now having finally run out, and having decided to finally just get it over with. The screen slowly pans out, showing a newspaper talking about the incident as the screen shuts to black, and as we're met with the end. Well, where do I even start? This game is incredible first and foremost. I think that's pretty obvious. Graveyard Shift does an astounding job at creating that feeling that many fan games seem to struggle with. Dread, fear, hopelessness. However, this is a very general way of describing this game, so let me explain why this is. As it may be obvious already, the game uses many analog elements, which, as I've said, comes from heavy inspiration from the FNAF software trend from a while ago. And from watching those videos, some have described them as giving off a feeling of just feeling unwell as watching this. I believe that this is due to a natural reaction that we get when watching these analog content. It feels like a taboo. We're not supposed to be seeing these things, as a lot of it feels like lost media or just corrupted and haunted. Walton Files, I believe, is a great example of this. I don't think it's necessary to say that the series really does give off a feeling of dread, unwellness, and creepiness, and that we're not supposed to be watching this. This feeling also, I think, goes hand in hand with the lore of the game, as often it does feel like the tapes we watch and read all seem just like private media that were never supposed to meet the public eye, giving us again this funny feeling. Another reason, of course, is the sound design, which is really great, if not even greater than the original Five Nights. Although a lot may mention the very obvious constant static, which aids in the analog aspect of the game, I think something that really interested me a lot more is how the audio is used in the nights. The animatronics walking, the breathing, the organic sounds that play throughout the alarm playing, all give off this feeling of urgency that really does get your blood going, but not in the excited way. Instead in a way of you fighting for your life while absolutely terrified. Which, again, goes hand in hand with the gameplay, which in the simplest way possible, it feels like you're a prey. What do I mean by this? Well, if you've ever played the game, you may know what I'm talking about, but let me explain. The way in which the cameras work, not letting you select one specifically, instead constantly changing again and again, create this gigantic feeling of urgency, when aided to the multiple threats from all sides, never really giving you a moment of peace. There's always a constant threat on the horizon, you have to be on your toes constantly to find a different way to avoid that threat. This isn't really a game of defense as other FNAF games are. There isn't one specific cycle which you can just repeat with the night and just win again and again. You have to alter your strategy to try and avoid everything, and everything changes from second to second. It will never be the same as it was last time. You never feel safe while playing this. And lastly, something that I really shouldn't even need to mention, but the animatronics themselves, which holy fuck, what the hell am I looking at? They're all just so incredibly creepy, and they all feel organic, alive, which, I mean, I didn't fully get a handle of the lore, but apparently this is what they actually are. Apparently they are alive, but don't quote me on that, I'm not a game theorist, I'm just a random guy reviewing these games for fun. Everything complements each other perfectly, giving off this experience that really every other video has talked about, but it feels like it shouldn't exist. And so it's unfortunate that apparently the creator of the game turned out to be not a very nice person, and so there goes one of the best developers in the fan base. The development cycle of this game was mental. Only months ago, or about a year now, did the demo come out, and months later, the full release came too. It's astounding. Graveyard Shifts is a magnificent game, which really blew everyone's mind in just about every way, and is a fan game that, for years to come, will really be looked at how truly to make a FNAF fan game. And a fan game that I've really been waiting years to come now, because I was getting bored by the complacency that some fan games had been finding. No offense to any developer, of course, there have been many amazing fan games, but it just felt like there wasn't much really going on. But of course, that's just my personal opinion, and I'm a bit cynical when it comes to looking towards this fan base. But yeah, I'll be excited to be looking at what the fan base now has to come up as a response to this. Because it's not just important due to it being such an incredible fan game, but also because it completely has changed the landscape for fan games to come. And I'll be very excited to see the result of what this may be.
Naughty Hula eyes that slyly hypnotize, that cast a spell right from the start. Deep within them lies a smile that never dies, to thrill and still my heart.